Hello, my name is Sherwood Lingenfelter. I'm professor of anthropology here at Fuller Theological Seminary and the primary author of your text, Ministering Cross-Culturally. My goal in this short lecture is to introduce to you the work of Gert Hofstede and to help you see the relationship between my work and this very important study of national cultures. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Ministering Cross-Culturally. Anthropologist Marvin K. Mayers developed the key ideas for this book back in the 1970s as a member of Wycliffe Bible Translators and as a faculty at Wheaton College. His goal was to help college students and Bible translators working in other cultures to see the differences between their values and the values of people they would encounter in ministry. Mayers and I became friends in 1977, and as I learned from him, I found these ideas very powerful for understanding the conflicts that I had experienced living as an anthropologist on a small island in Micronesia called Yap. When I returned to Yap in 1979, I had the opportunity to help German missionaries think through their value clashes with the Yapese people. It really was the dialogue with these missionaries that became the foundation for the book Ministering Cross-Culturally. You can see many of their stories in the book. Over the years, I've taught hundreds of students, and many have asked me, can you help me understand the values of the people in Malaysia, or in Sudan, or in Brazil? And my response has always been, I can teach you how to learn those values, but I don't have a source that I can send you to that will enable you to see the specific values that those people would embrace. Thanks to Gert Hofstede, that is no longer true. About the same time I met Marvin Mayers, Gert Hofstede was given the opportunity by International Business Machines, IBM, to analyze a large body of statistical data collected by IBM from its employees around the world. In 1980, Hofstede wrote his first book based upon this data, the title of which is Culture's Consequences. This work began a lifelong research program for Hofstede. Gathering and analyzing statistical data from IBM employees and then partnering with other researchers on data from other areas around the world. Together, these researchers have analyzed data from government workers, employees of international corporations, civil servants, consumers, and even airline pilots from 19 different nations. By 2005, Hofstede had substantive data from 24 countries or regions of the world. From this data, he constructed national cultural profiles of values and leadership behavior based upon his statistical analysis and correlations derived from this research. In his most recent work, Cultures and Organizations, Softwares of the Mind, Hofstede presents summaries of the national cultural preferences of these people that were surveyed by these researchers. They represent 74 nations and regions, as I said earlier. My purpose today is to introduce you to some of the conclusions of Hofstede's work, with the hope that someday you will take the time to examine it more deeply. If you open the PowerPoint presentation posted on Moodle, you will see the value summaries I have created for you from Hofstede. I also have slides that present a selected list of nations illustrating the variation in cultural values among them. Like all social scientists, Hofstede is deeply indebted to the work of other scholars in his analysis, so you will see many of the values that Mayers and I discuss in Ministering Cross-Culturally also present in Hofstede's presentation of national value profiles. For our session today, I'm only going to focus on the first set of variables, individualism and collectivism. If you look at slide 2 in the PowerPoint, I have summarized some of the key differences in societies that emphasize one or another of these sets of values. On the one side, you'll see the values of individualism. On the other side, you'll see the values of collectivism. Please look at this slide with me. First, on the collectivist side, those societies that value collective give priority to relationships and to group agenda and events. On the individual side, those societies give priority to task over relationship, person, and view time as money, something to be valued and not wasted. On the collective side, the metaphor of family extends into the workplace so that employees are family to their employer, and status is ascribed. While on the individual side, societies prefer contract relationships and personal achievement and mobility in the system. As you can readily see from this table, in his analysis of individual and collective societies, Hofstede employs three of the basic value sets: task and person, time and event, and status achieved and status ascribed. He shows how each value is viewed differently in individual and collective national cultures. Slide 2 shows a list, slide 3 shows a list of selected nations and their scores on what Hofstede calls the Individualism Index. You can see quickly that the United States has the highest index, 91, in the world. Pakistan, in contrast, has the lowest Individualism Index, 14. If you look across this sample, you will see that European countries fall on the individual side of the chart, and Asian and African countries fall on the collective side of the chart. However, it is important to look at the relative distance between scores. Germany, down near the bottom on the individual side, and Japan at the top on the collective side, have a relative distance of 67 and 46. So in fact, Germany and Japan are closer than Germany and the United States. Germany with 67 and the US with 91. If you divide the scores up into thirds, you see that there is a top third on the individualist side and a bottom third on the collectivist side, and then in the middle, between both of them, you have nations that fall somewhere in the middle. What this illustrates for you is that there is significant variation in nations, and some of them are torn between these values, and they don't have nearly the strong emphasis that they would have in the United States or in Pakistan. If you don't find your nation on the list, you should get a copy of the book from the library or buy a copy and study it more in depth. Now, the same principle that you see in Hofstede data applies to your basic value profiles. Among the members of your class, you will find variation in all of the values and scores that can be grouped into thirds, top third, middle third, bottom third, or even in quarters. It just depends on how you divide them up. Furthermore, if your basic values scores are pairs that are very high, like 6-6 or 7-7, this suggests that there's some other variable going on. Maybe some other value that's affecting how you responded to that particular situation. If your scores are almost identical but low, like 3-3 or 2-2, then that suggests that your preferences are weak in this particular value, and you're in the middle in that social paradigm. You could go this way or you could go that way, and it really doesn't make that much difference to you. So look at your scores. If you have a gap, for example, a 3-point gap, 6 on time, 3 on event, or 6 on task and 3 on person, that suggests that you have a strong preference for one over the other. And yet it's not completely exclusive. There are times when person is important to you. If you have a strong gap, 4-7, same. It doesn't matter what the variable is. This shows a strong preference for one over the other value. Now, you may have other questions about what the value profile means, and if so, you're welcome to send me an email or probably more quickly, contact your professor or TA for the class session in which you are enrolled. At this point, I will conclude this lecture, but I will explore other aspects of Hofstede's work in my lecture for next week. Thank you.